Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. And aesthetic and design is one of my favorite topics, so I'm happy to talk about it. I welcome Tina Lutz, who is the... Tina is the winner of the first accessory Munich Fashion Award that we gave to her last night with a stunning collection. It's called Lutz Morris.
Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
And then Herbert Hofmann, who was my partner in crime on the jury for this award.
Was du willst, vielleicht hier, weil
Ja, perfekt.
das nah an euch weiter.
So, fashion is the key word, I think, but maybe I just talk really quick about how I see fashion and some of the ones that I talked to yesterday and today as well. The greatest upheavals in society have always taken place together with change in fashion. How we dress will always say something about the world we live in and what is happening around us. Fashion is powerful. It protects us, strengthens us, weakens us if we don't know how to use it properly, can be our best friend, our uniform, our armor. It signals belongings and on the same time individuality. What we wear is how we present ourselves to the world, especially today when human contacts go so fast. Fashion is constant communication. Fashion sends signals, communicates affiliations, whether cultural or political. This saying means fashion is not irrelevant, banal or vain. Herbert, what interests you about fashion?
Do I need to?
No, you have to. I think you can use this.
What interests me about fashion? I mean, it came from a very natural thing inside me because I didn't grow up with people that were interested in nice design and fashion. There was never money for anything like that. But I think there was always a desire for a sexiness and products that communicate something. I think this was really the key when I think back when I think I was a nice kid, but I also got stories that I was criticizing the nail polish color of my mother in an early stage in kindergarten. But I feel like I always had somehow in me to exactly think about those codes and what do you communicate with certain colors and clothing that you wear. I mean, fashion right now for me is work. It became my work, and it's nice and it's great to work in fashion and to try to be a little bit of a filter in the overwhelming amount of clothing and products that we have. But I try to keep the passion that I had in an early stage, and this is also fueled by a lot of the young people that work with me to keep that in mind. So it's work, and I try to keep the hope up that we navigate in a nice way in the overwhelming amount and the group and the market that just wants to earn a lot of money. I feel like this is a little bit the tricky part, that everyone is a little bit greedy.
You were born and raised in Tyrol, then studied geography in Innsbruck and Stockholm, and then ended up in Berlin. And then your fashion career started. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing today?
Sure. I grew up in the mountains. Like I said, there was no fashion around us, but somehow I always had this feeling of like I loved music always, and when certain musicians wore a certain thing, then I really needed it. I mean, there were moments where I really, really needed to have a Mickey Mouse t-shirt because the Strokes were wearing it, and then I traveled for a long time to find the t-shirt, to then come back to my hometown and be the idiot that wears a Mickey Mouse t-shirt because nobody understood the code that I tried to give. And this is a story that I still remember, all these kind of, these codes. And studying geography was fun. It's like studying Allgemeinwissen, like just a little bit of everything, meeting a lot of people, seeing kind of trends. It's all about trends, seeing what's going on in a certain area of a city, or talking about glaciers and what is the trend there. And somehow I ended up being a fashion geographer, seeing trends on people, seeing certain shoes on people or shoe colors, and then when I'm tired of it, or I see too many of it, or I see too little of it, to kind of get a feeling for that it has to be in the market. Why is it not in the market right now? And this is somehow how I slipped into first PR, fashion PR, with brands that I really loved, and I didn't really know what fashion PR was, and I kind of tried as an intern, as a geographer, got the chance, and then got a chance to be a buyer and a creative director. Same story, I didn't know what a creative director is, I didn't know what a buyer is. I really had to be put on my hand by the first brands that told me, you go into the showroom and then you pick what you like, and I was like, oh, this is like shopping, and then everything was learning by doing, and I kept it always very real. So the word reality always stayed in my head, and I still talk about it. When I do creative direction, it has to stay real. When I do the buying, it has to be real. I go through a showroom with hundreds of products in a few minutes, because I literally do the shopping like I do in a shop, and if it doesn't touch me, like if I see a piece or touch it or take it out, I feel like then it also won't touch or interest people in the shop that I work for. So yeah, now I work for Eisner-Bayeti, a fashion magazine agency. We do all sorts of stuff. We bring brands together for collaborations. Now we have our own shop in Berlin, and we sell product, we show product, we offer products. And that became very interesting the past years, because there is so much, and you need to really figure out what you offer, that you don't overwhelm people, especially young people. I sometimes also see my colleagues or my team, and I'm always saying, like, I know what you earn. I don't want you to spend all your money on that one coat, and I don't want to be the grumpy old man, but I still want them to understand and learn a sensibility of, like, this is worth an invest and this not, and is it better to go on vacation or do this and that? It's in the end, it's clothing, it's communication, but also like communication of people with a white T-shirt and a jeans that they wear since 20 years. If they come into the room and they have a nice vibe and they're nice, then there's no need to dress up. But equally, I love when sometimes people come into a room and I'm like, wow, I've never seen someone wearing this kind of outfit. So it's a mix between being grumpy and excited about fashion.
Tina, you are born and raised in Stuttgart, then studied fashion design and pattern making at Esmod in Paris. Then you worked for Issey Miyake in Paris, then later on in Tokyo for a year, I think. And then in '92, you went to New York working for Calvin Klein. And what I describe is the heydays of Calvin Klein and the heydays of Issey Miyake at that time. I mean, they are legions today. How was it working with them, and which influence it had on you as a fashion designer in your career?
I mean, the two designers couldn't be more different. Working for Issey was basically a school of not looking to the left and not looking to the right. We were not allowed to look at fashion magazines. You would get like an Irving Penn flower book, and you had to design dresses inspired by the flowers. The body wasn't so important. The body was really more like a filler for sculptures. So you didn't really have to think about variability. I mean, the pleats were already happening, but pleats, please wasn't its own line yet. So we experimented a lot with fabrics, with colors, with just materials, how we can transform them into beautiful, sculptures. Calvin was exactly the opposite. It was all about the body. It was all about a brand. It was about sexy. It was about provocative. But it was also about a sexiness that was quite subdued. So it wasn't really about like showing everything. It was just like, bias cut dresses, but then also like men's style suits for women. And I think what, I really learned from Calvin was how to establish a brand. I mean, when your brand evolves around a logo, you work with a logo police, because there are very, very, very strict rules about, what you're allowed to do with a logo, or if you even use a logo. And he was very particular in his vision. I mean, we would get a memo saying that all paper clips will be confiscated, and that from now on we are only allowed to use black coated paper clips, because he was so particular about how things looked. Or, when it was your birthday and, people would send you a bouquet of flowers to the office, it was only allowed to be white flowers. So this is an extreme, but it also was so precise in the vision that it was an amazing school to learn about establishing a brand.
And then in 2018, in between, you worked with Christy Turlington and did several other design jobs. But then in 2018, you moved back with your family, your son and your husband, to Berlin and founded your current brand, Lutz and Morris. How did that came? Did you plan to do something again, or?
No, not at all. I kind of, so Lutz and Patmos was, I started the brand with a business partner, and it was all about making cashmere knits cool again, because back then it's hard to imagine. Cashmere was really like kind of dowdy and dusty. And when we started making a hooded cashmere sweater, it was like, wow, this is really incredible, which, now it's like very, very normal. But sadly, the partnership soured, and we separated after 11 years. And after that experience, I was like, never, ever my own brand again. And then, so after 24 years in New York, as a family, we decided to go back to Berlin for 1 year. It was especially for our son, who had refused to speak German until then. And the year in Berlin turned into many more because of Trump and COVID. And after that, we decided we're not going back to the US. So we have been in Europe ever since. The Lutz Morris I started, it was a heartstring, because my husband gave me a leather box for Christmas for my pens on my desk. It was a leather box that was built on a frame construction, and I fell in love with the frame construction. I don't know, it's a little bit what Herbert was saying. You feel it. You suddenly are like, oh wow, this is really talking to me. And there was a German manufacturer, mentioned on the inside of the box, and I contacted him, and this brought me into this whole research of German artisanship, and I was heartbroken. What has happened to German leather artisans? Germany had a huge leather business in like the 1870s. There was a whole area around Frankfurt there were tanneries, there were hardware manufacturers, there were factories. They were making saddles, boots, saddle bags. It was really big, and it all slowly disappeared. And especially in the 1970s in Germany, most of these places shut down, and everything got moved to Asia. And I still managed to find some family businesses who are really struggling. I also went to some factories, 3-story buildings. There were only 3 people left in the factory, still working. For example, the frames that all my bags have, there was still the German manufacturer. And In the building, there used to be 150 people working there, and now there were only 3 left, and they were all close to retirement age. And sadly, they closed after I worked with them for 2 years, but then they closed, and we were trying to take the machines from Hesse, which is where the factory was, to North Rhine-Westphalia, because I had people in North Rhine-Westphalia who were interested in making the frames there. But these machines were so big and heavy, it needed like a special transport. Walls had to be dismantled to get the machines out of the building. And it would have been a 30,000 euro transport. But we also couldn't get past the political red tape. Just from one state to the next, it was impossible. So in the end, we couldn't do it. And the machines were all destroyed. And so the reason why I started Lutz Morris was because I really wanted to do an homage to Germany. I really wanted to show that you can make high quality leather products in Germany that can compete with France and Italy. And I really wanted to help these families because there was a certain desperation. I was telling you yesterday, one of the family businesses I work with, they had 2 teenage sons when I started. They were 16 and 17, and the family said, do not go into the family business, do something else. And now, having worked with them for 7 years, both sons are in the family business, and there is like a new resurgence, also like me training them that they can actually make fashion products, because normally they make mouse pads, or they make desktop covers, or they make very, utilitarian things, but they have never really done fashion products. And to just show them that they can, and it also gives them a certain pride. So starting Lutz Morris was really about helping the artisans, but also producing as responsible as possible. I said, if I produce in Germany, I want to get all my components from Germany. So 95% of my components come from Germany. So from the sewing threads, the chains come from the Black Forest, the packaging is being done in Germany. The leather, almost all my leather comes from Germany, from an incredible gold-rated tannery that's run by a woman, and the tannery is off the grid. She has a huge field of solar panels and her own water treatment plant, and she makes the leathers for all the big brands, including Celine, Hermes. So that was my goal, to be as responsible as possible. And then I also support a charity, and I donate a transparent $10 of every bag sold to a charity called Every Mother Counts, which prevents maternal mortality worldwide. It's a New York-based charity, which was founded by Christy Turlington, and it's doing very important work, especially in the U.S., where U.S. is number 38 in the world for maternal mortality, and it's especially immigrant women, Black women, who are mostly affected, not getting adequate health care or being scared to get health care because of the fear of getting deported. So those 3 things, the artisans, the responsible production, and giving back to a charity, made me start a company again.
And if you want to check out the products, they are at the entrance hall, and they are really beautiful, like all the other finalists and their products. Herbert, as the creative director and head of buying at High Snobiety, how do you scout? How do you choose? You said you touch it, and if you don't have the feeling, you think your customer won't feel it as well. So, but what is the inner path for the products at High Snobiety?
I think it's very, very personal. I feel like the first job that I got as a creative director and a buyer was also for, back then, a very small shop in Kreuzberg in a backyard. When I started, I got told like, good luck with this sinking ship, and I'm very proud that this shop is like a very well-known shop now, that we onboarded Prada, where Prada didn't onboard anyone in the world. But they also saw what we saw, the reality of what fashion is about, which is having a good gut feeling and looking at reality of things. Like when I went into this first meeting with Prada, for example, after knocking at the door for years, they said like, so what is it? What do you have to tell us? And I said, I go to your shops and I don't feel seen. Like I go there and maybe I don't look rich, but I know everything about your product and your vibe and your aesthetics and your how you do things and how you want to educate things people. So and being real and being honest about that brought us in there, for example, and then me taking the 3-pack white T-shirts, and they were like, "Why would you take this? This is boring." And I was like, "No, it's amazing." The price was okay back then, not anymore. It's three T-shirts. The packaging is amazing. Like people are gonna freak out when we put this on Instagram and show it to people that this is our way of seeing Prada. And these were all moments. Same for Nike. Nike was also like, "What are you doing in this backyard in Kreuzberg? There's only kebab, Buden and this and that." Like, and we were like, yeah, "This is our reality. We live here. We love nice products. We love to build up a community." And then we had white socks from Nike for a few euros, and people thought because it was a few euros that it was fake. They thought it was a fake shop with fake products. But this high and low, as I always said, kind of made the mix and made, this was the reality for us, wearing a Prada loafer with some Nike socks and maybe some vintage stuff. So we always had vintage there also. And this was my school for doing buying. And it was like keeping things real to myself and to my friends around me, people that I know. I mean, I had my little excursions to Paris and Milan, where I didn't get invited for some cave and other stuff that I don't like. But keeping it real to my world, and what we spoke about also, saying no to things is more important than ever. It's not about going on a website and checking what do they have. It's often about what don't they have. Did they make active decisions of not onboarding a brand just because everyone has it? I mean, there's so many shops that I'm like, guys, this is not your aesthetics. And just because this is a very hip brand right now and everyone is talking about it, like you have to look behind the curtains and see why they have it. Sometimes you're friends with someone and you don't have to have the feeling that you miss out on something. You can imagine that this fits to that shop but not to our shop. So yeah, it's very much about a personal approach. It's about also meeting people. I mean, it was so fantastic to listen to you and hear about the product and what it's all about. Like, why do you do this? And trusting people and also not trusting people is for me always a guideline. If the people are, for me, it's always a people's business. So I went into showrooms and I liked the product, but people were not nice. There was not a nice vibe, or you get the feeling that this was all done for business. Then I'm like, okay, I'm out of here. This is not gonna last. And I'm very happy that I was right so many times. That things that touched me became something, and we built it up slowly and with small budgets, and then it became bigger. And other things that I didn't touch were out. There were so many brands or new creative directors going somewhere, and everyone was like, this is going to be the new thing. And I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't feel it. I really don't feel it. And then when you see after 2 or 3 seasons that a brand is disappearing from this and that shop that you might look at, I was always like, well, I'm happy that we didn't take this journey. And and also very personal things. Like I had Calvin Klein in my shop at a time where there was not rough there yet. That was and it was many years ago already, but it was not when it was sexy or anyone was interested. Calvin Klein collection, very expensive, very simple. I loved it, but there was like the spiders coming from the ceiling. We were the only ones in the showroom. Nobody was interested. Many people that worked there for a long time. It was super charming, but we were one of the only shops in the world buying this very expensive collection. We didn't sell it well, but for many years we carried it. Then I was in the showroom, and back then I think it was the president of Calvin Klein looked at my shoes, and I was wearing Raf Simons shoes, and she was like, you like Raf? And I was like, yeah, I'm a big fan. She was like, there will be big news. And then I was like, wow, that's exciting. We carried this brand for so long, and it never sold. Maybe now it's sexy enough that we will sell it, and we are the ones that always were loyal to the brand. And guess what happened? Like, we went into the showroom, and those women that I loved so much, they almost cried as I like, look, I have to tell you something. We're going to onboard 6 more shops in Berlin, and you have to buy 25,000 euros for men, 25,000 euros for women, and you're not allowed to sell online. I was like, well, how should that work? Like, Berlin is so poor. You onboard all these shops that all of a sudden like the brand because there's a new creative director and it's sexy and it might sell. And then I said, okay, I'm out. And I was also sad. It's like kind of a breakup, because then you tell them, look, I was so loyal to you, and now you onboard all these shops and everyone comes now. Don't you see that this is all fake? Yeah, and it took 2 years. I think not even the first shops were immediately out after the second season, because obviously nobody sold their product. It was way too expensive, way too much stuff in the market. All the people who might have bought it, they were getting it for free from the brand. There's a few celebrities in Berlin. So yeah, long story short, I think it's a people's business, and you have to stay loyal. You have to trust your gut feeling, and it's also okay to then say, look, everyone should have fun with that brand now. I had my moment where I was in love with it, and eventually those people are gonna knock at your door in a few years, and they're gonna beg for going back. But I'm often hard and don't let them in anymore.
What is the average age of your customers?
The average age would be for our readers and customers is like between 18 and 32, if I remember right. It's becoming more and more women also. Historically, High Society was a men's magazine. Now I think we're at like a 60 men and not even 40 women, but we also started looking into non-binary readers. So yeah, that's a little bit the average.
Has shopping behavior changed? Because I think there was a certain time where everybody did products for Gen Z. That was the thing. And the collection got younger and younger. Then the silver liners appeared. We were there. I mean, I'm a silver liner. We were there, and we are potential to buy, but there were no products. So it seems that the whole business is in such a confusion. That is all the changes of like designers, and they don't have time anymore, and they get fired after a short period. The designers get younger and younger, have more and more responsibility. You would agree, Tina, to that?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time because, we have racism, we have, sorry, I'm blanking. Anyway, there are too many men who work in the fashion business, basically. I feel like there are not enough women designers. I don't really feel seen as a customer by a lot of brands. And I also think that we're facing ageism in the fashion business like never before. And it's sad because, like you were saying, who are really the customers who have the budget to buy the fashion that's out there right now, especially now since the prices have gone crazy by all the designer brands, and everybody is chasing these bubbles. I feel like it's all about creating a hype on social media and creating things that catch eyeballs. But in the end, who is really buying the clothes? And for me, it's really important, like, how does it fit? And I can tell when a man designs clothes versus a woman, because I know, it just fits differently. But I also am really sad to see how quality has gone down. Prices have gone up. I feel there we're in a very particular time where it has become more and more difficult for small designers, because the two big conglomerates, LVMH and Kering, and their brands, they're taking the air out of the room, and it is very difficult for a small brand to compete with the marketing budgets that these brands have. And I wish for more women designer. I wish also for more seasoned older designer, because I feel like there's really something there when you had decades of work experience. And this is kind of what I wish for the fashion business. And we're talking a lot about sustainability in these last few days. I just want to quickly say, I don't believe in the word sustainability. I believe in the word responsibility, because the moment you start producing something, it's not sustainable anymore, because automatically you use electricity, there's, fuel for shipping, you make your packaging. It's not sustainable anymore. A plant is sustainable, but the responsibility, I feel, has fallen also a little bit to the wayside, because everybody is really struggling right now economically. And so everything that is responsible usually costs more money. And so there's been a lot of cuts when it comes to responsible business practices.
I get signs that we are over time already, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to introduce you to somebody. We were talking about emerging talents, you mentioned it, and there is so much pressure on this, mostly young people, because a whole industry is expecting that they are changing the world for the better. And we have this fashion system. There is the industry on the one side, and there are the small designers on the other side. A new generation of young designers who have brilliant ideas, but lack the recognition, support, and funding to bring them to life, and thus to drive systematic change. Yesterday, here in Munich, the first winner of the Munich Fashion Award is Martin Niklas Wieser with a brilliant collection, and he's everything that we need in the fashion system. Martin, you come on stage just for 5 minutes.
Wer should das dahin? Yeah.
And I didn't want to miss the opportunity. It was not planned. It's spontaneous, but I thought it's good while we have you here, just to hear you. What are the challenges, Martin, that you face with your brand? You founded it in 2013, then you went working for Proenza, Schaula, and then you were advisory board for Mytheresa China before you restarted your brand in 2022. You're based in Vienna. Tell us everything.
Yeah, hello. Thank you so much for having me. There's a lot to tell. I think it's going to be very difficult to have all of my thought stream now shortened. A lot has happened these couple of days, and it has been this huge exchange of knowledge. And I think this was probably the most important thing for me to take from this experience, because I think we talked about this at length, and I think as what I see my role as at the moment is to kind of have this bottom-up approach. I'm a tiny actor in this industry, but I can propose some things. I can try to solve the problems in my own little world, in my own little atelier, and some of them are scalable, some are not. But I fight a lot for this freedom of experimentation, and I think this is what I'm basically doing all the time. I'm creating space for experimentation, for new technologies, for new materials, for new shapes. And in the center of all of this is an urge to create something beautiful. And this keeps me up at night, and this is what's feeding my soul and my heart, to create things that are beautiful, that I like to touch, that I like to look at. And if it touches the body, if it touches the person, then this is what I can propose. And but it is nothing stale. It is nothing stable. It is always changing. It is alive, and it's always, every day it's something different. And that's, I think, also a bit my approach to everything that I do. We don't discard anything, and I need so much time to develop each piece, because it takes like 2 or 3 years for me to perfect really like one suit jacket, which has the perfect drape, the right patina, the proper yarn, the right material that is compostable, that I can track, that has been made with the right people that I collaborate with, train. So it's always an exchange. And so yeah, I would say, what are the challenges? Time, a lot of boxes to tick. We're tiny, 2-man show, but we're trying to do what we think and believe in is best.
If you could wish for something, somebody who wants to support you, what do you need?
So I don't come from business. I'm an artist at heart. I don't have so much time to acquire all the business knowledge. So I think what is so important to me, what my wish is, to engage in a conversation. And this is why these things are so important. And I don't like public speaking, but I'm a very shy and introverted person. That's why I became a fashion designer. I just want to work out of my atelier and touch fabrics and shape them and mold them. But I do come out to engage in a conversation what we can do together, and how, as a designer as well, how we can shape the future, how we can shape something which is beautiful, functional, innovative, responsible. I also believe in that word. And how we can come together also, in conversation from the commercial side, from the making side, from the innovation side, how we can put our heads down together and solve some of the problems we have, but within an aesthetically the highest level that I can propose. And that's why I work very hard on this. And this is very, very important to me, that I can propose an aesthetic, and that it is within this frame that innovation and responsible design is also seen and communicated as.
Thank you so much. Let's start a conversation. I really hope for that. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed our class, and have a wonderful day.